Okay, Ellen, are you ready to join us?
Hey, yes.
Great. So again, like I said, today we're talking about social media quick tips with Ellen from Hello Social. So thank you, Ellen, for joining us. This is brought to you as a service of the SBDC. The SBDC, the Penn State SBDC, is located on the Penn State campus, but of course we are all working remote. So things that we offer at the SBDC are consulting, training, information, resources, and referrals. So thank you guys so much for joining. And if you're interested in any of those services, please get in contact with us and we will be sure to connect you with any of these services. Today, we're going to be discussing social media tips with Ellen from Hello Social, and she'll introduce herself in just a moment. Some of the topics that we'll be discussing are defining social media platforms, optimizing your profiles, the types of content that you should be posting. Ellen will be giving some scheduling tools, resources, which are great for making your life easier. We'll be talking about metrics, so how to measure that your posts are actually reaching your audience. And then, as always, we're open for questions and answers as they come in. So anytime you've got them, just drop them into the Q&A or the comments section on Facebook. So I'd like Ellen to go ahead and introduce herself, but also she can maybe explain this slide to get us started. I thought this was a really great slide. We're starting off right in the morning with our coffee cups, so this is really helpful. Ellen, do you want to introduce yourself, your company, and tell us what this slide is telling us?
Yeah, certainly. So thanks again for having me. Again, my name is Ellen, and I am the owner of social media marketing agency Hello Social. We are based in Bellefonte, and we've been doing business here in the central PA region for almost 3.5 years now. On the team, I consider myself to be the social media strategist of the group. So we have a few employees that handle the day-to-day management, and I work on overall social media strategy for all of our clients. So to dig into this social media platforms explained with coffee slide, I absolutely love this graphic. Our team member Katie put this together, and I use it over and over again because it's so useful. So basically, this is helping you figure out which audiences are on which social networks or what kind of content you should be using on each social network. So on Facebook, we're saying that this is a little bit more personal. You can be a little bit more open-ended with what you're posting on there. Twitter, short little snippets, normally using a hashtag, always good to throw an emoji onto Twitter. LinkedIn, you're talking about your professional experiences, it's less personal. And on Instagram, always posting photos or videos and making sure that your content is really visual.
That's great. I'm going to go ahead and take this screen down so people can see us a little bit better. But again, I think this is a great one too. And thank you for joining us this morning. Yeah. So we did talk about the 4 main platforms that we're going to be addressing today. Could you kind of just give a brief overview for people who are maybe new to social media on each one? So maybe starting with Facebook, well, we're here live on Facebook, right? But so you're saying that's a bit more personal?
From a personal page standpoint, yes. Business pages can be a little bit all over the board as far as how personal they get with their business accounts or brand pages. Facebook is the kind of network, though, that you can post almost anything on. So it offers a ton of different, features, post types. You can really get any sort of message out on Facebook. Whereas, on Instagram, you can only post photos or images. You can't use links on Instagram. So you're a little bit more limited. However, that platform is more widely used and it's known for being kind of a happier place on the internet. So people tend to flock there.
Oh, nice. Interesting. What about Twitter? So how does that apply to certain industries more so than others? Who should be using Twitter, or should all businesses attempt to use Twitter?
Yeah, so we actually don't recommend using Twitter to most businesses unless they have a ton of content they're producing. So if you are a business that has a blog or an events calendar, something that constantly is being updated on your website, that's when you might want to consider using Twitter. To be really effective on Twitter, you need to post about 15 times per day.
Wow.
Nobody's got time for that. So,
That's right. Yeah.
you know, so we don't recommend it to most like small business owners because of that reason.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you just gave us permission to not do something that makes our life a little bit easier.
Yes.
What about LinkedIn? That, you know, should businesses have a profile, or is that more individualized? What is the deal with LinkedIn?
I think there should be a healthy mix of the two. So for example, for Hello Social, we have a business brand page on LinkedIn. And I post an update on there maybe once a week, you know, upcoming workshops, things like that. However, I leverage my personal profile more to do business. So because people buy from people, they want to see that real humans work for these places. And LinkedIn gives me a place to kind of, you know, talk about what's happening in the professional world.
Okay, interesting. So if I'm a business owner, I should kind of balance my own credentials and my own page with my business page as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
So one thing that I see my husband do for our business is he takes a post for the business and shares it on his own page, and then they stack kind of on top of each other. Is that how is that okay? Is that you're sharing your business post to your personal page, or should you try not to duplicate content?
No, that's totally fine. I would just say that in addition to that, he should also put up some posts that aren't a share. So he should create a little bit of content on his own to put on that page.
Okay, good tips. Um, so do you have any like strong thoughts on, you know, say restaurants should all be on Facebook, or you know, health and fitness industry should be on Instagram? Do you have any tips on, you know, certain platforms that certain industries should definitely be on?
Sure. I mean, again, it's all over the board. So this is totally dependent on your business's target audience and kind of where users hang out on the internet. So pretty much Facebook is the norm for everybody. Almost every business should be on Facebook because it has a ton of great SEO benefits. There's, you know, events features. It's super easy to use for everybody. So we do recommend that almost every single business is on Facebook, whether they hate Facebook or not. Um,
That's good.
I mostly recommend Instagram to businesses right now, especially brick and mortar restaurants. The only businesses that I don't recommend Instagram to are ones that don't have a visual story to tell. So if you're hyper service based, you don't really want to show the faces behind the company, Instagram might not be the place for you. Um,
I like that. So my
yeah,
next
so
question, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's totally dependent on who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you kind of answered my next question. You know, if you didn't have any platforms started at all yet, it seems like Facebook is the place to start. So maybe starting with Facebook and then dipping your toes into Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Okay, great. Well, that I think we kind of introduced all the platforms we're going to speak about. Let's talk about content. How do we get images, good images, and what type of images should we use, and that kind of thing?
Well, number one, you should always try to take your own images when possible. And I always recommend using your smartphone. So people get really hung up on like needing to have a fancy camera and hiring a photographer. And while I'm a photography hobbyist, I know that that's not possible as a small business owner all the time. So don't be afraid to use your smartphone to take photos. The most important thing to think about when you're taking smartphone photos is that you can get that professional image quality by just editing it a little bit, editing those photos a little bit. So we have a few of our favorite editing apps that we like to use to make smartphone photos look like professional photography. My absolute favorite is called a Color Story. It's my favorite because you can set up presets in there just like you would on, you know, Photoshop or other photo editing tools on a PC. So I have the filters that I use for every single post that I use on Hello Social, and I just have to throw my photos in there.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. So you said that's Color Story, and that's an app on your phone that you would take the
Mhm.
picture, open the picture up, and just apply a filter to it, and it would look 10 times better,
Yeah.
or some along those
Yeah.
lines.
And
Yeah,
you know, adjusting the brightness on a photo is the most underrated photo editing
cool.
step.
Yeah, that's great. What about, so we have to use our own images or buy images. We shouldn't just take random images from the internet and post them there. That might be a violation of some type of copyright and get you in trouble, right?
Yes. So never take images from Google. The only way that you should take images from Google is by updating your search preferences and making sure that you're searching only for Creative Commons images. Also, there are so many free stock photo sites out there that you should not even consider looking for Google images. So one of our favorites is called Unsplash. That's Unsplash. Another is called Pixabay, Pexels, Pexels. There are so many of these stock photo sites. So they give us the ability to look for photos that have something to do with our industry or help us tell our story, that look really professional and also are licensed for use.
Right. But you should probably be mixing that with your own images, right? Not just only using stock images to tell your story.
Yeah,
Is there a
for
good
sure.
balance?
People want to know and see the real people and the real things that are going into a business. So, you know, make sure if possible, you're posting pictures of you, of your team. One of the things I always recommend doing is hopping onto hashtag Friday introductions. So this is kind of a nationwide trend right now, is that on Fridays, people introduce themselves and they use that hashtag Friday introductions. If you click on that hashtag, it is all business owners from across the nation just saying, hey, this is what I do.
That's really awesome. And I want to remind people, if you're joining us on Facebook, you can drop any questions you have into the comment section. Also, I do have a comment that came in, or a question that came in, and so we'll take that one now. What platform would you recommend for e-commerce business? I have an online home-based bakery.
Online home-based bakery. I would definitely say Facebook and Instagram to start. I would focus my efforts though on Instagram. So that's where you're going to show the really visual aspects of your business. Here's what I'm baking today. Here's the finished product. Here are the tools that I use. Here are my favorite products to add on, sprinkles and frosting and all the different things that go into what you're creating. You can tell that story in a really visual way.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I can almost smell the cooking just by the story, the images that you were describing.
Yeah, now I'm hungry.
Yeah, that's great. So if we could get back to content, you did mention the filters, but what about a single image or a gallery? Is one better than the other, or should you alternate that type of content?
I wouldn't say that one is better than the other. However, there are, you know, things to consider that improve your reach on every network. This is always the most confusing thing that I ever say. So if you should either post one image on Facebook or you should post five. So if you're doing a gallery, you shouldn't do less than 5 images. And if you might start to notice this in your newsfeed now, people that have posted maybe only 3 or 4 images in a gallery, Facebook really messes those photos up, makes them unappealing the way that it displays them. So we always recommend 5 for a gallery.
Okay, I hope the listeners were taking note of that. So it's 1 or 5, but no less. Is more than 5 acceptable?
Yeah, more than 5 is fine because it's only going to actually show the 5 preview, and then you'll click through to see more.
Okay, and users are drawn into clicking through typically?
Typically, yeah, if the imagery is really good, and that's why that matters, because if a photo looks like, you know, people's heads aren't showing in that 3 or 4 gallery view, that's when people don't want to look through.
Okay, yeah, so good 5, at least 5 good images need to be in there.
Sure.
Okay, that's a great tip. Okay, so what about videos? Are they better than photos, or should you balance that out? What's your recommendation there?
Yes, and sorry about Murphy hanging out in the background here.
Yeah.
Videos absolutely always perform better than photos. a couple of things to think about when using photos though, or I'm sorry, when using videos is that a lot of people never turn their sound on. So you want to always use that caption feature that's built in.
Okay.
And that there are particular lengths that you should consider when you're putting videos up. So for example, on Instagram, you cannot post a video on your feed that's more than 30 seconds long, whereas on Facebook, a video that's longer than 3 minutes performs best. So when you're thinking about video, there's a lot to take into consideration.
Yeah, that does seem a little bit comprehensive. What do you mean by caption? So when someone's seeing the video, something will pop up saying, turn your sound on to hear?
Sorry, I meant closed captioning. So
Oh, okay.
Facebook has a tool that allows you to add those subtitles right to the bottom, and it just automatically generates those. And you should always use that feature.
Oh, that's great. That's pretty cool. So what, speaking of small businesses, what is appropriate to post on your small business page as far as videos go? Like what type of content should you be posting?
Anything and everything, excuse me, anything that makes you more human. So think of like how-to guides, maybe some behind the scenes tours of your business. Here's what we're working on today. You could do product demonstrations. One of the examples I always think of is retail-based businesses. I love when they unbox new products. So if you have a new product line coming into your shop, I watch a lot of videos of people unboxing that for the first time and showing off what the new product line is.
Oh, that's such a good tip. I remember a few years ago, it was really hot for the kids to be watching other kids opening toys. I mean, this was like a YouTube channel and it was huge. So it's kind of the same thing, but for adults, the unboxing, and that's cool. So I think even right now, especially as we talk about the coming out of the pandemic or still living through the pandemic, it's going to be important to tell safety stories or safety. Would safety videos be? We're going to talk about stories a little bit later, but videos of how you're keeping up with the safety standards in order to mitigate the COVID spread. Would that be important?
Yeah, absolutely. People are really utilizing social media accounts to make decisions about where they're shopping or where they're dining or where they're visiting right now. So anything that you can put on your business page that conveys that you are, maybe following the rules and, ensuring the safety of those patrons is going to be really important and might ultimately help them make their decision of where they're going.
Yeah, that's true. And just to finish up a video conversation, is Twitter, do Twitter videos do well? Is that a platform to do video on?
Yeah, so people do post videos on Twitter. I wouldn't say that they're as popular as Facebook or Instagram videos. The limit length for Twitter videos, though, is 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh, interesting.
Very specific.
Yes. Okay, that's good to know. So we're streaming live on Facebook right now. What are the benefits of streaming live?
There are so many benefits. To start, there are just a ton of algorithm benefits. So like algorithm is a bad word to everybody that doesn't work in social media. It's that thing that makes your social media life horrible. But it's live videos generally have more viewership than any other posts on the feed because they allow people to really get drawn in. So if I'm just a regular user scrolling on my phone and I see this video pop up and I see that it's live, I kind of want to know what's going on. So by default, it draws more users in.
Nice.
It allows audiences to come to something that are not able to actually attend. And that's been so important during, COVID-19 because obviously we couldn't attend anything. So businesses and brands had to really shuffle to think about how they were going to pull off their events that they usually were going to. One of my favorite examples that we were able to help with at Hello Social was the Center County United Way did Live United Live, and they just did this few hour long live stream concert, and so many people tuned into that and watched live music all night. And that's something that was made possible because of live videos and really expanded the reach outside of the State College area.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So the streaming live will stay on your page for a bit longer?
So live streams will stay on your Facebook page forever, just like a normal video would. On Instagram, live streams go to what's called IGTV, which is just a separate video platform that's built into your Instagram account. So
Okay.
it's not as easy to find on your profile, but the videos do live there.
Okay. And that kind of links us up with stories. And we actually have a post coming in, or a question coming in about stories, and it asks, what do you recommend to post on your IG story? So can you just tell us a little bit about stories, how they work? I think, everybody sees them floating up there, but we don't know how to use them.
Sure. So super basic to get started. Instagram stories live in the little bubbles at the top of your Instagram feed, and feed posts are the rectangle or square posts below that. So stories only live for 24 hours. Side note, they are available on Facebook too, but they're more widely used on Instagram. So we use stories for a lot of different things. Again, the behind the scenes is really popular. Any how-to guides, tours, things like that. One of my favorite examples to share is a local bridal shop did a story that lives on their page as a highlight that is, here's everything you should bring to your initial bridal appointment. A lot of people don't know that they should wear the same bra they're going to wear on their wedding day and things like that. And this story just lives on their page, letting people know that this is what to expect on that first day. However, you can choose not to make them highlights, and they're just going to go away after 24 hours, which is nice.
Like go away forever? Is there like a story bank anywhere, or they just go away?
Not for normal users. So you as the poster of the story on a business account can, on the back end, see what stories you've posted forever. However, your users will never be able to see them again.
Okay. So to go back to our question, you do recommend Instagram stories. They're widely used.
So many people are actually watching stories now instead of scrolling through their feed. So it's important when you're thinking about your content strategy to think about hitting every member of that audience. So right now we're recommending putting 5 posts per week on your normal news feed, the regular post that you're used to, but also adding 1 story a week to your content strategy.
Okay. And I'm a little confused by stories. So I've seen people do stories where there are multiple different layers, or just a single story with a single picture with maybe some flashing text. What do you include in a story?
So I think it's important to remember why it's called what it is. And a story should always have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Oh, I like that.
So when you're thinking about creating content, think about how can I introduce what this story is about, what's the content that actually goes within the story, and how can I do a quick wrap up. So really, your story should be a minimum of 3 pages, no matter what. Of course, there's always going to be opportunities to just share a post and add a cool sticker to it. So, if somebody locally is holding a giveaway that I'm excited about, I will just share that post and put a sticker on it, and it's just one single slide. But if I do actually want to, tell a business story in some way, beginning, middle, and end.
Oh, that's a good one. And I think we talked about using stories to tell about COVID safety precautions that you might be, maybe behind the scenes, what's going on in the kitchen, if you have a food restaurant, a food service business, or, other public facing business. You're recommending more behind the scenes look for the story?
Yeah, and what's nice, so, something unique about Instagram is that people are really drawn to the aesthetic of it. So when you come to an Instagram profile for the first time, you're kind of, whether you realize it or not, you're looking at this overall feed and deciding if you want to follow it based on the colors that they're using and the types of photos that they've posted. So you always want to make sure that that feed is consistent with your brand. However, stories give us an opportunity to differentiate from that and do something a little more genuine, a little more authentic, and a little more impromptu.
Oh, I like that. I like that. All right. just want to remind everybody, if you're joining us on Facebook, you can drop any questions into the comments section and we'll address those live. Also, if you are in our Zoom, you can just use the Q&A feature and we'll be answering questions live. So thank you again, Ellen, for joining us. So let's talk about optimizing profiles, which may seem like a kind of big word. Can you explain what that means just to start?
Yeah, so optimizing your profile just means that you are setting it up for success. You're putting all of the elements on a profile so that it can work for your business.
So what do you have as far as working for your business? What are the tips, the number one thing that you can start doing today?
Number one thing is to make sure that your profiles are indeed business profiles. You know, when business pages started getting really popular on Facebook, a lot of people created these personal accounts that ended up being their business pages, but aren't really accessible to every user. So if you still have one of those old pages, first step is to just make yourself a business Facebook page. Also, when people open Instagram accounts, they don't realize that there is a totally separate business platform. So you should just go to your settings on Instagram and switch to a business profile. You won't lose any of your content. You're just going to get access to a ton of new features made for businesses.
Oh, that's a good tip. We have a couple of questions that came in, so if we could just pause on that for a second and address our questions. As a consumer, I like to watch how-to videos on YouTube. What about businesses or industries should consider YouTube?
I will say that I have a love-hate relationship with YouTube. I probably don't recommend it as much as I should. YouTube is a really powerful platform and tons of businesses see success on it. I don't watch a lot of videos personally, so it often gets overlooked for me. But if you are a business that does focus heavily on those how-to videos or really has something to show off that video is conducive to, definitely try a YouTube account.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all learning, like how-to videos on YouTube are the go-to these days. So thank you for your comment on that. Another question that came in on Facebook, how often is ideal to post on, say, Facebook? I struggle with the balance of getting content out there versus flooding people with too many posts.
Yeah, so it really depends on your business's specific needs. But we would always recommend a minimum of 5 posts per week. And that's because let's say if you have 1,000 followers on your Facebook page, a small percentage of those are going to be served the content each day per week. So 5 times per week ends up kind of ensuring that almost every subset of your audience does get served at least one post during the week. So kind of complicated to think about. But how often you post really depends on your business needs too. So, you know, I've seen restaurants that post, here's what's for lunch and then here's what's for dinner. You know, it's dependent on that content.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And I think we'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later, especially maybe, you know, certain times a day or maybe using automatic features of Facebook to find the best times to post, right?
Sure.
So back to optimizing, you spoke about making sure you have a business profile, making sure your usernames match up. And did you mention the buttons on your page and making sure those work?
Yeah, and I actually didn't mention the usernames. So
Okay.
that's really important. You know, it's important to make sure that it's easy for people to find you. So I wouldn't want to be Hello Social Co, no spaces on Facebook, but on Instagram be hello_social_co. All of those handles and usernames should be consistent across the board. And then as far as buttons, there are different call to action buttons on all of your social media business profiles that don't necessarily get set up when you set up those accounts initially. So you want to make sure that one, you're picking the right buttons for your business. If you go into the templates tab for your Facebook business profile, you're going to find a ton of different pre-made templates that could be a good fit for your business. On Instagram, you want to make sure that the call now button is updated, the email button is updated, so that everything ties together and people can really easily reach you.
That's a good tip. And I think we also spoke a little bit when we met before this about, those call to actions to actually doing something, right? So they are going to take you to your website or take you to an email campaign. What is the significance of that?
Of calls to action. It's just giving people the opportunity to take the next step. So obviously the whole reason that you're putting all this effort into your social media marketing is to do business in some way, to either sell your products or your services. So every single post should not have a call to action, but within your content strategy, you should decide, okay, one time per week, I'm going to have a little bit more of a salesy post maybe. And that's what I'm going to say. DM me to learn more, or here's the link to learn more, call me to learn more, something like that. It doesn't always have to be learn more, but
Yeah, no, I think that's a great tip. And I think we spoke a little bit about the marketing bow tie, which is a bit high level to explain on this call, but you do want to get those customers. You kind of have all these customers floating around in outer space, and somehow you want to make them aware of you on social media, but then you want to convert that awareness into an actual sale by bringing them to your website or getting them on your email list or DM, as you would say. I'm not super familiar with using that
direct
terminology.
message.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so that's great. We did have another question come in, and just a reminder, if you're on Facebook, you can drop those questions into the comments and we'll address them there as well. Can I post the same thing 5 times?
Yeah, certainly. Just not in the same week. So something that we actually always recommend is reusing content. As business owners, we get really, we lose creativity. There's only so many things that you can write. So I personally, if I'm feeling really stuck on content one day, I'll scroll to my Instagram feed from last year and I will just copy the URL from one of those posts and reshare it as long as it's still relevant. It's always okay to repurpose content as long as it's relevant.
Yeah, and this business owner kind of alluded to that. Each one seems to take so long for me to create. So, and maybe we can discuss that a little bit, as far as, how do we simplify the process for small business as far as, first of all, you had kind of mentioned having a strategy. So can you kind of define what that would mean?
I mean, a strategy is a lot of things. It's defining who your audience is. It's knowing who you're trying to talk to. It's figuring out content pillars, which we're going to talk about here at some point. It's figuring out how you're setting goals and how you're measuring them too. So your social media strategy is everything that goes into what you're posting and just kind of ensures that you're not winging it. Because when you're winging it, that's when you get burnt out on social media. So if we have a little bit of a plan set up, coming into Tuesday morning that, well, here's what I have to post today because I've set this content plan.
That's a great tip. Thank you. So if we could shift a little bit to metrics, and first let's kind of define what metrics are. We talked about optimizing your profile, making sure that it's going to work for you. So next, metrics, what does that mean, and how does that work for a small business?
Well, like I just mentioned, this all has to be for something. You don't want to just post for the sake of posting. So we always recommend setting some goals for your social media presence. And then we want to measure how you're reaching your goals using metrics. So metrics are available across every social media platform, and they use consistent terms across the platforms too. So on Facebook, you're going to be looking at your insights. On different platforms, they call them analytics. So, but all of the measurements are the same. So the measurements that we tend to watch here at Hello Social are reach, engagement, and volume. And reach is the product of engagement. So engagement is anytime somebody likes a post, comments on it, or shares it. And when I say like, I also mean all of those new features that have recently been added to, heart it or hit the care button. Those are all engagement. When people engage with your content, the number of people that engage with it snowballs into reach. So this is kind of a multiplication of all of those users and who is seeing your post because those users have engaged with it. And then the last metric we really care about here is volume. So this is not the amount of posts that you're putting up, but rather it's the number of times people are talking about your business. So if I am a business that has a branded hashtag, here we use hashtag focus on local. Every time a business uses hashtag focus on local, I'm counting that as part of my volume every month to say people are kind of aware of my brand and what the focus on local hashtag is for.
So a branded hashtag, what is this?
A branded hashtag is something, is a keyword or phrase that is tied back into your business. For some people, that's going to be their actual business name. For other businesses, it's going to be some kind of initiative. So here at Hello Social, our hashtag focus on local is this kind of movement that we have produced to encourage people to shop local and build up their local communities a little bit more. So that's our branded hashtag. However, a local one that comes to mind is hashtag Converse Couples. So Converse Jewelers here in Bellefonte, every time a couple gets engaged, they're encouraged to post a picture of their engagement using hashtag Converse Couples. And that lets that business then curate all of the content that's being used in that feed and lets them know when people are talking about them.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. That's great. If we could go back a little bit, what I've noticed is that on Facebook and Instagram, it's harder to get likes than on a personal profile. So if I'm just starting my business page out, and I'm not getting any likes, should I be frustrated? Is my content not right? What do you recommend on that?
No, you definitely shouldn't be frustrated, because if you really think about it, the people that follow you on Instagram on your personal profile are usually family, friends, and people that you've met in real life. Those people aren't necessarily going to be buying from your business. So it's not necessarily about the number of followers that you have. It's about them being qualified buyers of your product or service. So if you have, only 10 followers, but all 10 of those buy from you every single week, you're still in good shape. However, you can use your hashtag strategy and use a consistent posting schedule to grow that following.
Okay, that's a good tip, because I know that a lot of my small business clients kind of get frustrated. They start out strong with their social media and then they're not seeing the likes that they may want to see, and so they kind of give up. So is consistency important for growing your social media platform?
Yes, consistency is very important, and that's on the technical side. So if a social media platform like Facebook or Instagram, if their account has measured that you are no longer posting consistently, it's actually going to punish you a little bit, and your posts are not going to be shown as much in a newsfeed.
Okay, so stick with it, small business owners. Okay, so we spoke about reach and engagement and volume. Are these measurements, these metrics, the same across all platforms?
For the most part, some of them use a little bit different language, but they're all measuring the same thing.
Okay, great. So we alluded to the fact that we were going to talk about making things a little bit easier for small businesses. Can you describe what a scheduling tool is?
Sure. So a scheduling tool allows us to schedule content in advance for our business. This is something that's only available to businesses. So, I can't schedule content in advance on my personal Instagram account. However, there are different platforms that allow you to schedule content on behalf of your business or brand profiles. And they make it a lot easier to produce that content. One of the reasons I love it is because, I'm a creative type person, but other creatives know that you cannot be creative every single day. So there are certain days that I feel, a lot like writing, but other days that I cannot produce a single piece of content. So these scheduling tools allow me to produce a ton of content in advance on those days that I am feeling inspired, and then kind of set it to publish on my behalf.
That's great. One thing that I run into is that, yes, you can use the scheduling tools, but you can also add in live content or content that's relevant to current events. It doesn't have to be, oh, it's already scheduled, I can't post anything more, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that is great about scheduling tools as of late are almost all of them have incorporated a pause all post feature. So as we've seen with recent events, there are just times that it is not appropriate to use social media. And the day that comes to mind was Blackout Tuesday a couple of months ago. That was a day that every business was encouraged not to post on social media, to kind of give space for other people to use the platforms. And that's awkward if you have posts scheduled. So this pause all post button allows you to know when it's appropriate to post.
That's great. Do you have a short list of scheduling tools that you recommend?
Yes, and all of these tools offer different features. So it's really dependent on, again, what networks you're using and what target audiences you're trying to reach. Absolute favorite is Tailwind. Another popular one is later.com. Buffer, if you're using Twitter, Buffer is definitely one to try. And also Meet Edgar is the one that I usually recommend to bloggers or people that are producing a lot of blog content.
Yeah, those are great. And you had recommended, you had noted to me that the Tailwind app will actually help you with hashtags as well, correct?
Yes, and Later does that as well. So basically it's going to pull data from your accounts showing you what hashtags you've used in the past. And it's going to use that data to create industry specific hashtag recommendations for you. And it's also going to rank them based on how effective they are. So we always say that, if a hashtag, you always want your hashtag to have 6 digits. So when you search for a hashtag, it's going to show you how many times it's been used. If it's below 6 digits, it probably won't get seen by as many users. But on the contrary, if it's in the millions, your post is going to get pushed through that feed faster than anybody can see it too.
Interesting. That's a good one. So let's finish up with content pillars. And we alluded to maybe bringing this up later in the talk. You have some great content pillars at Hello Social that you try to hit 3 specific areas every week. Can you describe what those are?
Yeah, and so content pillars are just these category types that allow us to create content a little bit easier. So if you're having trouble figuring out what to post from day to day, you can create these pillars and always know, okay, well, the next piece of content I need to post is, an inspirational post, something like that. So here at Hello Social, the 3 that I use for my business are, oh geez, what are they? Education. So every other day we post an educational tip of some type. The other content pillar is focus on local. So that's some kind of community connection post, building up something that's happening in the community around us or talking about community in some way. And the third pillar that we use is behind the scenes or meet the team. And that's when we're showing faces. That's when we're showing what we're working on. You'll see a lot of our laptop screens and reports and some crazy stuff like that.
I like that. So you're kind of hitting 3 different areas. Do you think it's appropriate for every business to kind of have an educational pillar?
I think for the most part, yeah, because even we recommend educational pillars mostly to to service-based businesses. However, every business can educate their audience on something. So I'll go back to retail. If you're a boutique, you can educate users on how you source your products and why you source your products and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. And what about behind the scenes? Is that an important look for on social media for a lot of customers? Do they want to see the behind the scenes for most businesses?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Unless your business is, sensitive in some way that you can't share what's really going on behind the scenes, I think that almost every business should be sharing the people and the processes behind what they do.
Okay, so we have education and behind the scenes that we can definitely recommend to our small businesses to kind of make a content pillar. And then you focus on local is obviously your branded hashtag that you've created. So it's almost like something that gives a feeling of your company culture,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, it's more actually about what's going on around us. So that Meet the Team is more of our personal company culture, whereas the focus on local content pillar is where I'm saying, you know, Friday in the Font is happening this weekend in Bellefonte. We love this event because um, it's building up the things that are happening around us, and this is especially important for brick and mortar businesses because things that are happening around you draw people into your community. So you know, if I'm a coffee shop and I know that there's a farmer's market outside every Friday, I want to promote that farmer's market because maybe when people are on their way in or out, they're going to stop and grab a cup of coffee too.
Oh, that's a great differentiation. Thank you. What other tips have we not addressed? And as we move into kind of finishing and wrapping up here, I want to remind anybody, now's your time to ask questions of Ellen. So if you have any on Facebook, you can drop them on the Facebook comments. But you can also, if you're on the Zoom, drop them into the Q&A. So if you have any other social media related questions, Ellen is here to answer. And actually, we do have a question that just came in. Is there a perfect length for an IG video?
So an Instagram video that's within your newsfeed can't be more than 30 seconds. So you do need to take that into consideration. However, if you're putting it on your story or on IGTV, it can be, I'm pretty sure it can be an unlimited length. It might be like 2 hours or something really, really intense.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Okay. But 30 seconds is the basic limitation.
Yep, on the newsfeed.
On the newsfeed. Okay. Do you have any other tips that we didn't address in our general talking points?
Ooh, I don't think so. We talked about a lot.
Yeah, we did. We did. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get finished up. Still, if you have any questions, you are welcome to drop those into the Facebook comments and we will address those as they come in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Ellen has given her her contact information. So if you have any questions after the talk today, you could reach out to her. She is a great resource. Everybody, you know, in my community reaches out to her for her knowledge base. So here is how to reach Ellen. She's got her Instagram. Is that called the handle?
Yes.
Okay. Her Instagram handle up there. And thank you, Ellen, so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, before we finish up, I like to finish with 3 rapid fire questions. So we'll go to that real quickly. And these are just kind of a fun way to get to know Ellen a little bit better. So if the audience walked away with one thing from today, one key takeaway from today, what would it be?
Definitely those content pillars. So creating the content pillars to help you drive your posts and drive your social media strategy and make it a lot easier for you to know what you're doing. I think that's the easiest thing to tackle and is really important.
Yeah, I think that makes it so much easier. I think you alluded to 5 posts a week and 1 story. So if you kind of align those with your content pillars, it just seems to be much easier to tackle. So thank you for that. All right, a little bit off topic. Who is your favorite entrepreneur and why?
Favorite entrepreneur? I would have to say Emily Thompson. So locally, maybe not really heard of. So Heidi, sorry, somebody named Heidi just commented. Emily Thompson is the owner of the Being Boss podcast. And this is actually a podcast that I listened to a lot when I was first starting my business. And I learned a ton from it about being kind of a creative entrepreneur and selling things online. It's kind of weird to say it out loud now that she's my favorite entrepreneur though, because we did meet in real life last year and we've become friends. So favorite entrepreneur, but also friend.
Nice. Okay, last question. Can you describe your favorite small business experience?
Oh man, there's so many. I notoriously shop small whenever I possibly can. I would say that every time I go into Helen Fox here in Bellefonte, I feel like I get the royal treatment. You know, Joyce, the owner there, she immediately starts picking out things that she thinks that you'll like. She takes you to the dressing room, you model everything, and she tells you what she loves or has you try other things. So I think she's my favorite local entrepreneur, and you know, she always has that great experience.
That's great. And so that's a clothing shop in Bellefonte, right?
Yes, women's clothing.
And it's called Helen Fox.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for playing along with my rapid fire questions.
Sure.
I think it's great to get to know our panelists a little bit better. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm going to throw Ellen's information up one more time, just so you guys can take a look. If you need to get in contact with her, she's such a great resource. So definitely reach out. And if you aren't able to grab this information here, you can definitely reach out to the Small Business Development Center, and we'll connect you with Ellen as well. Next week on Quick Connect, we have Sonia Smith from the Pennsylvania State. She's the Pennsylvania State Assistant Director for the SBDC and the Cookstown SBDC Director. She'll be talking about all the resources that the SBDC has. So, you know, if you're really looking to grow your business or take some new steps in your business, you'll want to join us and just learn about the different ways that SBDC can help. Everything from one-on-one consulting to you know, informational research, market research. We have tons of tools at our disposal. So please join us next week and hear Sonia Smith as she describes some of these resources. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with us at the SBDC, you can reach us at sbdc.psu.edu, and we'd be happy to connect with you. And you can either get in touch with one-on-one consulting, or you can come to more of our webinars and workshops. We have a lot of great ones coming up in August, so be sure to check out that page. And I think that's it for today. We're going to finish up. I did notice one question coming in the chat. Let me see if I can see that. Ellen, can you see the question in the chat?
I think it was just a couple of thank yous.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. My chat button was not pulling up. So again, thank you so much for joining us today, and consider joining us next week. If you'd like some more coaching on your social media page, definitely reach out to Ellen. Ellen, thanks for joining, and everybody have a great Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.
Bye-bye.